Ever wondered how we got here, from tiny hunter-gatherer bands to a global civilization of billions? Buckle up, because we're about to journey through the entire history of human civilization in just 10 minutes. Our story begins around 200,000 years ago with the emergence of Homo sapiens in Africa. For most of our existence, we were nomads, following the herds and the seasons. We were masters of our environment, developing tools, fire, and complex social structures. But our world was small, defined by the immediate needs of survival. Then, about 12,000 years ago, everything changed. This was the Neolithic Revolution. In different parts of the world, from the Fertile Crescent to China and the Americas, we began to domesticate plants and animals. This simple act of planting a seed was the most radical innovation in human history. For the first time, we could stay in one place. Villages sprouted, populations boomed, and the foundations of civilization were laid. With surplus food came specialization. Not everyone had to be a farmer anymore. Some became potters, others weavers, priests, or warriors. This led to the rise of the first cities around 3000 BC in Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Places like Uruk and Ur became bustling centers of trade, culture, and power. With cities came the need for organization. Writing was invented, not for poetry, but for accounting to keep track of grain and taxes. This invention, cuneiform script, marks the beginning of recorded history. Soon, great empires emerged from these city-states. The Akkadians, the Babylonians with Hammurabi's famous law code, and the mighty Egyptians who built timeless pyramids along the Nile. In the Indus Valley, cities like Mohenjo-daro displayed incredible urban planning, while in China, the Shang dynasty was casting intricate bronze vessels and laying the groundwork for dynasties to come. These early civilizations were brilliant, but often isolated. Then came the Classical Age. Around 500 BC, the world started to connect. In Greece, concepts like democracy, philosophy, and theater flourished in city-states like Athens. Thinkers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle asked fundamental questions about existence that we still ponder today. Their ideas, along with the conquest of Alexander the Great, spread across a vast Hellenistic world. Meanwhile, in Rome, a small republic was growing into a colossal empire that would dominate the Mediterranean for centuries. Roman engineering gave us aqueducts and roads, their law formed the basis for many modern legal systems, and their language, Latin, became the root of many others. Across the globe, other empires were at their peak. The Maurya and Gupta empires in India saw incredible advances in science and mathematics, giving us the concept of zero. In China, the Han dynasty established the Silk Road, a network of trade routes that connected the East and West like never before, exchanging not just goods, but ideas, religions, and technologies. But all empires fall. The Western Roman Empire collapsed in the 5th century AD, ushering in the Middle Ages in Europe. This era is often called the Dark Ages, but that's not entirely fair. While Europe was fragmented, incredible things were happening elsewhere. The Islamic Golden Age, centered in cities like Baghdad, preserved classical knowledge and made groundbreaking discoveries in medicine, astronomy, and algebra. In China, the Tang and Song dynasties were periods of unprecedented prosperity and invention, giving us gunpowder, printing, and the compass. And in the Americas, civilizations like the Maya were developing complex calendars and writing systems in splendid cities hidden in the jungle. By the late Middle Ages, the world was on the cusp of another massive shift. The Mongol Empire, the largest contiguous land empire in history, brutally but effectively reconnected Eurasia, revitalizing the Silk Road. Marco Polo's travels sparked European curiosity about the East. The Crusades, though violent, re-established contact between Europe and the Middle East. This brings us to the early modern period, starting around the 15th century. Driven by a desire for new trade routes to Asia, European explorers like Columbus and Vasco da Gama set sail, accidentally connecting the Eastern and Western hemispheres for the first time in millennia. This Columbian exchange transformed the world. Potatoes and corn from the Americas revolutionized Old World diets, while horses and diseases from Europe reshaped the New World, often with devastating consequences for indigenous populations. The Renaissance, a rebirth of art and learning, swept through Europe, challenging old dogmas. The Reformation split the Christian Church. and the scientific revolution, led by figures like Copernicus, Galileo, and Newton, gave us a new way to understand the universe not through faith, but through observation and reason. This new way of thinking fueled the Enlightenment in the 18th century, with its radical ideas about liberty, rights, and self-governance. These ideas exploded onto the world stage with the American and French revolutions, forever changing the relationship between the ruler and the ruled. The 19th century was defined by the Industrial Revolution. Starting in Britain, the use of steam power and factory production transformed human society more profoundly than anything since the invention of agriculture. Millions moved from farms to cities, creating a new urban working class. New technologies like the railroad and the telegraph made the world feel smaller than ever. But this era also saw the height of European imperialism as industrial nations carved up Africa and Asia, creating global empires and sowing the seeds of future conflicts. The 20th century began with immense optimism, but quickly descended into the most destructive period in human history. 2 world wars, fueled by nationalism and ideology, killed tens of millions and redrew the map of the world. The Cold War pitted 2 superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, against each other in a global standoff under the shadow of nuclear annihilation. Yet, this century also saw incredible progress. We achieved flight, split the atom, created computers, and landed on the moon. Colonial empires crumbled, and dozens of new nations gained independence. Movements for civil rights and women's rights fought for a more just and equal society. And that brings us to today, the early 21st century. We live in the information age, connected by the internet in a truly global village. Technology is advancing at an exponential rate, from genetic engineering to artificial intelligence. We face unprecedented challenges, climate change, pandemics, and global inequality. But we also have unprecedented tools and knowledge to solve them. Our history is a story of challenges and responses. From the first farmer planting a seed to the programmer writing a line of code, we have constantly reshaped our world and ourselves. The story of civilization is not over. In fact, we are living in its most crucial chapter. What we do next will determine the future for millennia to come. Thanks for watching this whirlwind tour of human history. If you found this journey fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into our incredible past. See you next time.